PHP has a few functions that you can use to pull apart strings. You can also search through them and perform comparisons. These functions are normally used with conditionals, which we'll be discussing later on in the course, but they are important enough that I'm going to introduce them here. Later on in our course, we'll use them in a more formal way. Earlier in this section's lessons, you learned how to join strings together using concatenation. You also know how to make larger strings out of smaller pieces. Along with making larger strings out of smaller pieces, PHP easily lets you extract subsections from a string. The trick to using any method to pull out a subsection of a string is that you must know something about the string itself in order to know how to break it apart. One of the functions that we're going to be looking at is the string token function, and it looks like this. This function is going to create a substring referred to as a token from a larger string by using a predetermined separator. This could be something like a comma or a space. So, for example, if we had users enter their full name in one field, presumably their first and last names separated by a space, we could pull out their first name using this code. Let's look at how this might work. For this example, I'm just going to enter the first and last name into the first name field and use that since that's something that we already have. I'm also just going to get rid of this part of the code, or at least comment it out, since we're not going to be using that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new variable. We'll just call it first. I'm going to make it equal to the string token, and in the parentheses I'll pass on my post array, and then I'm going to again try to get the results of first name, and then after the closing curly brace I'm going to use a comma, and then I'm going to put the separator that I'm interested in finding. So in this case I'm just going to enter a space. This line tells PHP to extract everything from the beginning of the post first name until it finds a blank space. So if I have my users enter their full name, I can find their first name in this way. So let's just go ahead and let's comment out our printed statement, and then I'm just going to print the value of first. So if we come back here to our form and we type Mary Smith all in the first name and I click send it, you can see that now it's simply getting Mary. It's not getting first name. If I somehow did not have a space there and used a comma or something else, then we would get the full first name value. We have programmed this so that it's looking for a space. If I change this to a comma and we save it, and then we go ahead and send our form again, now it will once again only get Mary. The second way to pull out sections of a string is by referring to the indexed position of the characters within the string. The index position of a string is the numerical location of a character, counting from the beginning. However, PHP, just like most programming languages, begins all indexes with 0. If we were looking to index the string of Mary, we begin with the M, which is at position 0, followed by the A at position 1, and the R at position 2, and the Y at position 3. So even though the string length of Mary is equal to 4, the index goes from 0 to 3. So in short, indexes always go from 0 to the length minus 1. So with this in mind, we can call on the substring function to create a substring based on the index position of the substring's characters. And to do that, we would print something like this. The first argument is the master string from which the substring will be derived. Second, we're indicating where the substring begins as its index position. So 0 means that we want to start with the first character. And then the third argument that we're passing on is going to state how many characters the substring should contain. So in this case, I'm saying 10. So if the master string does not have that many characters in it, the resulting substring will end with the end of the master string. This argument is optional. If you omit it, the substring will also go until the end of the master string. You can also use negative numbers in the second argument if you want to count backwards from the end of the string. So I'm just going to put a value for string here so we can see what this looks like. So if I make a variable called string and set it equal to elephant, and then of course we're asking for the substring of elephant, so let's just print sub so we can see what this looks like. And you can see that it's currently printing out Joe elephant. Let me just comment this because we don't need the Joe part at this time. So now we're just going to get elephant. So it's just going to get the value of elephant. And because elephant is less than 10 characters, we get the entire string. If we change this number to a 5, let's say, and save this and then refresh the page, you can now see that I just get the first 5 characters of the string. And let's just change this again so that we can count backwards. So I'm going to change my second argument to a -3. And I'll say that I just want to count 3 characters. So if I go ahead and save this and we refresh, you can now see that I just get the last 3 characters of the string variable. So when we write this like this, it says that 3 characters should be returned, and we're starting at the 3rd character from the end. So starting right here, and so that's going to give us ant. It would be possible with this particular example for us to get rid of the last argument and we would have the same results. So if I save this and we refresh the page, it's going to still return ant for us. And another function that I want to talk about right now is string length, and that allows us to see how many characters are in a string. So if we wanted to find that out, I would just go ahead and I'm going to use my print statement again. And let's just actually concatenate in a break right here so that these values will be on different lines. But I'm going to print, and I'll use my string length function, and I'm just going to pass in the value of our string variable. So if we save this, we should get results of 8, which it is going to print. So it's going to count all of the characters or get the string length of this particular variable. It is worth noting that if your strings contain spaces or punctuation, those are going to be counted as well. So if I write a sentence here and we refresh, the value is then going to include not only the characters, but the spaces and the punctuation. One more function that is similar to string length is the string word count, which allows you to see how many words are in a string. This functions along with substring that we looked at earlier. So I'll just concatenate in a break here, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to print, and this time we'll use our string underscore word underscore count function. And I'll pass in the value of my string variable just like we did before. So if I save and we refresh, we're going to get a value of 3 because there are 3 words in the string variable. So I'm just going to comment those out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment the original code that we were using, and we're going to use some of these in our form that we had built before. So this version of our script is going to do 2 new things with the user's posting. One is that it's going to display the number of words that the posting contains, and that information is going to be assigned to a new variable. The second thing the script is going to do is we're going to limit the comments results to only show the first 50 characters. You might use this if you had a page that you wanted to show like a truncated version of a post or comments, and then you would have a link that took the user to the full posting. So let me show you how we would go about doing this. We're going to create a new variable called words, and we're going to make this equal to the string word count, and we'll pass in comments for our variable. And then we're going to create another variable that is going to restrict the comments variable to only display the first 50 characters. And so let's just kind of update our print statement. And for this example, I'm just going to get rid of this code. We don't need this code, so I'll just delete that just to simplify this a little bit. So we're going to say thank you name for your comments. And I'm going to put a opening paragraph so that the comments will appear in a new paragraph. And let's add ... And then I'm going to add another paragraph and we'll pass in our words variable and we'll add the word words. And I'll close the paragraph, and then of course I have my closing div. So if we save this and we go back to our form, and I'm going to have to write a longer comment. So let me just produce some text there. So here I have some comments, and clearly it's more than 50 characters. When I click send it, and let me just point out that the comment ends with the world. So when I click send it, it's going to say thank you Joe Smith for your comments, and then obviously it's truncating the comments, and it's also telling how many words were part of the original post. So the original post was 61 words, and here it's just showing a little bit of what was entered into the comments section. So you may find these functions to be helpful as you're building websites and incorporating PHP into them.